Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. Please also keep Officer John Wilding and his family in your thoughts tonight. He tragically passed away in the line of duty serving the residents of the city of Scranton 7 years ago today. Roll call, please.
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Donahue?
Here. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, correspondence received from OECD regarding code enforcement report for council complaints dated July 5th, 2022. 3B, correspondence dated July 1st, 2022, from OCD ARPA Director Eileen Cipriani regarding American Rescue Plan update. 3C, correspondence received from OECD dated July 6, 2022, regarding the OpenGov report for licenses and permits for the month of June 2022 and the cumulative license and permits report for January through June 2022. 3D, Single Tax Office City Funds Distributed Comparison Report 2021-2022 year-to-date July 5th, 2022. 3E, Single Tax Office City Funds Distributed Year-to-Year Comparison dated July 6th, 2022. 3F, memo received from OCD ARPA Director regarding correspondence received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development dated June 28, 2022 regarding Program Year 2021 Review Letter. 3G, correspondence received July 7, 2022 from OECD Executive Director regarding June 2022 Code Enforcement Report. 3H, minutes of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority regular meeting held June 1st, 2022.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have an announcement. The Scranton Notre Dame Club is going to be holding a park cleanup at Crowley Park on July 16th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The park is located at the end of North Washington Avenue in Greenridge, and it's named after Jim Crowley, one of the four horsemen of Notre Dame from the 1924 team. Any help would be needed. That is all.
I believe that the East Mountain Neighborhood Association is going to be doing a movie night, I believe, on Saturday evening, July 16th, 6 p.m., is that? 6:30? 8:30, excuse me, at Robinson Park on East Mountain. Thank you.
Do any other council members have any announcements? Mr. Voldenberg?
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Before we start with citizens' participation tonight, I would just like to remind the speakers when they're addressing council to please be respectful of everyone in the audience and also those at home. And a reminder that the council rules state that no person, including members of council, shall use their time during citizens' participation to personally insult or attack any individual. Name-calling, profanity, racial or ethnic slurs, discriminatory remarks based on race, color, religion, national origin, ancestry, or place of birth, sex, gender, identity, sexual orientation, disability, marital status, or age, or any other behavior that is inconsistent with the purpose and intent of conducting official business shall not be permitted. First on the list tonight is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, Scranton. I'll try to behave myself. I have to take objection to some of the statements that Mayor Cognetti made this evening with regard to her explanation of why there is limited access to City Hall. I believe she made the comment words to the effect that although we can't roam through the building anymore, we should call for an appointment or someone will come down and meet with us on the first floor. She appointed me to the Firefighters Pension Board back in February. And it came to my attention as a member of that board that there is a systemic problem with pensions. And I told the board that I wanted to talk to the mayor about it because basically she's the one who should ensure that the problem is fixed. So several weeks ago, I started calling her office number because if you go downstairs, on the door it says Mayor's Office 4101. So I've been calling. No one would pick up. I don't like to leave voice messages, so I just assumed, well, you know, they're out of the office, they're on vacation, they're at lunch, they're in the lavatory, whatever. After several days of doing that, I says, well, I better leave a voice message. Maybe there's some kind of issue. Maybe they're all sick with COVID. I left voice messages for several days. Finally, last week, someone called me back. Somebody named Pete, if memory serves. And I said, I need an appointment to speak with the mayor. And he said, why? And I told him why. And he said, okay. So tonight she walks in. No one's called me back for an appointment. And I said to her, you owe me an appointment. She had no idea I had been calling. So I ask you, is the system working that you can call for an appointment? Now, maybe she'll fix it for the future. Maybe that's all water under the dam. But I'm telling you that if there's going to be limited access to the building, then there needs to be a system that works, that citizens can get the services and the assistance that they need. Or why are we paying taxes? Now, next thing, what's the status of the union contracts?
It's my understanding they're still under negotiation.
Oh, that's a winner. We're day 193 on the downhill side of the year. 53% of the year is toast. And you're going to turn around twice. You're going to be on your August vacation, and then you're going to be into the budget process. It's going to be very interesting if you're trying to plan wages and salaries for 2023 when you don't have the contract. Also, you only have 2 more sessions before your August recess, and I have seen no legislation for the contract for the Special Labor Council.
That was received today and will appear on our agenda next week.
Oh, good. I'll be looking forward to see the controller's report on how much more money we have to pay Mr. Ufberg's association or his business. Any word on when we're going to get clarification on the payroll preparation tax issues?
I believe a meeting has been scheduled. That's what was passed to us with parties to the letter that was sent to us.
But we don't know when information might be forthcoming.
I believe there'll be information forwarded to us once that meeting occurs.
Hopefully it'll be before the end of July. And are we still on track for the month of July for something to be done about the sound system in here?
Unfortunately, because of supply chain issues, we are not.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Oh, and I saw the document from the open government on the various sections of the city. Are we going to break out the downtown area from the Hill section or South Scranton or not? Because it didn't do it this time around.
So I believe they are trying to do that. I think the reasoning behind that it's combined is the same inspector is assigned to both the Hill section and Center City. That's the reasoning, but they are trying to figure out a way to break it out in the system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Les Spindler.
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. Councilman Donahue, thank you for mentioning Patrolman Wilding. I was going to do it myself, but it's been, as you said, it's been 7 years today, and that's why I'm wearing this shirt in memory of him. And I've been waiting for the governor to sign it into legislation, but talking to the mayor said he's probably just gonna let it pass through, but I know the family was hoping he signed it today because it was the anniversary. I guess that wasn't done. I really wasn't gonna come here tonight, but I witnessed a pit bull attack in the city today. I've been talking about this for 17 years now. When my dog got attacked 2 blocks from my house by 2 pit bulls that lived at the end of my block. And thank God the owners came running, or my dog would have been killed that night. I was driving through the city today on Capous Avenue, and I saw this woman was holding, it looked like this would be a chihuahua in her arms. This pit bull was jumping on her. But thank God, 2 people, who I guess were the owners, came and got the dog. Or that dog would have been killed, and God knows what would have happened to that woman. Like I said, I've been talking about this for 17 years. I talked to the mayor before, and she said, well, we do have legislation, but it's not strong enough. So we got to come up with something stronger. I talked about this for, like I said, for 17 years. In Pittsburgh, you can look it up, they have a law. If you have a dog that's deemed dangerous, you have to have a 10-foot high fence, and you have to have insurance on the dog. In Pottsville, they have an aggressive dog ordinance. The owner's fined for 1 attack. After 3 attacks, the dog has to be put to sleep. In Prince George's, Maryland, that's a different state, so maybe they can make different laws. Pit bulls are banned. You can't own a pit bull in that county. You could be arrested if you're caught with one. It carries 6 months in prison and a $1,000 fine. Now we need something in this city with more teeth in it, or these attacks are going to keep happening. And it was just lucky that woman wasn't seriously injured today. I stopped. I got out. I asked her if she was okay, and she was visibly shaken, but she was okay. I said, you should call the police. She said, no, I don't want to call, then there might be repercussions. So I went around the block, and I saw where the people lived. They were standing on the porch with the dog. But I looked, I didn't want to stop my car there. They'd know something obvious was going on. I did not see an address on the house. But I did, across the street, I got the address of the house right across the street. So the chief took a picture of it. I wrote it down. So hopefully he sent somebody over there to give them a warning. That's an apartment building. I'm not sure, like a couple next to each other. I'm not sure which one they live in, but hopefully an officer will go and knock on their doors. Because when my dog was attacked 17 years ago, the police officer came, told him where the dogs came from. He said, yeah, I know the house. But nothing was done then. But the people did move out shortly after that. And I know there were drugs being used in that house, and I think maybe even being sold. And like I said, they moved shortly after that incident. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on that, but I do hope council looks this over again and makes stiffer laws. Next thing, I spoke to Frank last week about my corner, and he said they do plan on coming and fixing it, and he said he would talk to them again. So I'm just wondering if he heard something.
He was able to confirm that it is on the list for DPW to go out for work. Can't tell you exactly when, but it is on. That's the update.
I hate to be negative,
yes.
but you know, they said they would be there before the cold hit last winter, which didn't happen. And now we're turning the corner in summer. You know,
We'll see if we could get a better estimate, but that's just in the notes that Frank gave
Okay.
you. That was what they
because I
conveyed.
know, as Joan said, you know, after a couple more weeks, you're going to be off for the month of August. All right. If I don't see you in the next few weeks, as the song says, I'll see you in September.
Thank you. Next on the list, Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. The first thing I have for the residents of the city is that I recently had an opportunity to do an interview on ECTV that's on YouTube talking about the Home Rule Charter. I don't know how many more of these ECTV slots I'm going to do, but you know, I just think it's time to really start discussing a lot of issues. You know, like I talked the other day about you know, the things in 3A, B, C, you know, the minutes, whatever. There needs to be a lot more explanation on what's taking place there and what these reports are, what was said, what was asked, because the residents should be well informed about what's going on in the city, and they're just not. And that's a problem. You know, I sat here, I listened to about the grants. And then, of course, one of the council members brought up about a crack in a wall. When do you invest grant money into a building that might have structural problems? I mean, just off the top of my head, you know, I've been going around the city looking, you know, at projects that were previously done by the city that are no more, and they were done with federal money. Just threw it right out the window. You know, I just think we really need to take a good look at what's going on. And I don't know how this council feels about 78% of the American people thinking that this president is leading the country the wrong way, and we've named things after this man, and now his own party doesn't even want him to run. And I just hope the council would look at the shame they brought on the residents of this city by doing the things they've done. It's just terrible where we are in this city. You know, when we have a meeting here, we're talking about repurposing grants. Okay, then we have a speaker get up and talk about the situation of the city's pension funds again. Where are we going here? There needs to be a lot more discussions. You know, I'm going to ask ECTV if they'd give me the opportunity to sit down with the mayor on their format and ask the mayor some questions and have a real discussion with the mayor. Maybe even you 5 council members would want to come to the party. We could have a real nice conversation about where this city's at and where we're going and where all our money is going and how the decisions in government are being made and how the residents of the city are locked out at the door. Or just what the council president said today about some kind of control on speech. When the Court of Common Pleas judge said plainly that you can't do that. Is this the kind of government the American people really need? Do we need our speech controlled? Do we need to be locked out from our government at a doorway and try to make calls to departments? I've wandered this building probably for 40 years and never had a problem. I just find it really troubling that we're locking the residents of this city out in a vestibule and denying access to their government. That's the most un-American thing I've ever heard in my whole life. And then the government to say it's afraid of its own citizens? Doesn't make any sense. It's all upside down and twisted. It's just not the way that American government should function. Somebody's got to come up with some kind of plan because we need a government that's responsive to us. And if we're just coming out of Act 47 and we have financial problems now and we're throwing grant money around and we're repurposing grant money, what did we learn? You know, I just had a reassessment on a property I own outside the city. My taxes on that property went up 44%. And the county is doing a reassessment in Lackawanna County. The residents can't pay. We've got to figure out what role government should play in our society, focus it, and get out of things we don't belong in. The things the government doesn't belong in, we shouldn't be in because the people can't pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Tim Schwartz.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Thanks for this 4 minutes and 55 seconds right now. I'm Tim Schwartz. I'm the president of the Hill Neighborhood Association. I've talked with y'all, or some of you. I was here a couple months ago and have talked with some of you as well. I'm speaking as the president of the Hill Neighborhood Association in support of some of our neighbors, but not speaking for them. I want to raise some concerns about the new zoning map and the specific designations of the zoning map on the 200 and 400 block of Colfax. I have a bunch of concerns about it that I want to share. I'm concerned about the implications of the new zoning as a civic or institutional or whatever it is now. I'm concerned, I'm sure you've heard the concerns of the neighbors in and around that area. But I'll share with you a couple of my concerns. The first concern is the process of proposing the map. I feel that other neighborhood groups have stated their concerns about the zoning map, and they were changed like that. The Hill neighborhood, myself, and others shared our concerns about the zoning map, and they weren't heard, and they weren't changed. I think there's something going on there that is concerning to me. I've spent numerous hours listening to the grief and heartache of the neighbors on Colfax and around there, on Wheeler, on Arthur, on Vine, or wherever. Hours listening to their heartache, their fears. People who have lived in generational houses that they've raised their kids there. They pass their houses on to their kids, those same houses on to their kids. Their parents pass them on to them. You know, people are probably born in the front room in some of those houses. I've listened to their fears. I've listened to their concerns. I've watched their grief, and I don't know. I heard the grief as many of them who don't know what to do as changes are just being forced upon their heads. In the form of saying the hospital wants to expand their footprint to bring better services to Scranton. My concern in the process is that the local residents there told me that haven't been consulted or allowed any input into that zoning, into that change. I'm concerned because these neighbors feel like they're just getting railroaded by the large corporation of the hospital and by their city as well. I'm concerned because I perceive, a different concern is that I perceive a lack of imagination in the zoning map. You know, whenever we're presented an either-or situation, either the hospital has the footprint to bring new services to Scranton, new services and jobs to Scranton, that must go on the 200 or 400 block of Colfax, or that block can remain intact. We need to have imagination enough to not say either or, but to say both and. The idea that the hospital can offer new services is great for Scranton, is what we need in Scranton. The idea that the hospital can offer new services solely by expanding its footprint by devastating those two blocks. But the hospital will not be able to offer more services if it can't devastate those two blocks. It's just a false dichotomy. The hospital can offer more services in Scranton and be in Scranton, and that neighborhood does not have to be destroyed. Delta Medics found a place downtown to offer their services. The Wright Center found a place close to downtown to offer their services, not destroying neighborhoods, either one of them. I know you can't do anything about what Gallagher does in the future, but you can protect families in the city and their houses and their neighborhood. We must be imaginative enough to find a zoning solution that is good for both the hospital and for the families that live in that neighborhood. That's a solution that's good for the city. I encourage you, council, to listen to the voices in the neighborhood as you look at the zoning map of the 200 and 400 block of Colfax. Listen to the grief, listen to the heartache, listen to their fears and their concerns, and also listen to their ideas. They know that neighborhood. They've been living in that neighborhood for the last 140 years, some of them. The ones that have been there for decades, they know the neighborhood. I encourage you to have the imagination to find a win-win solution for both the hospital and the neighbors and all the members of that community. I encourage you to find a good compromise. We recognize that Scranton needs more services. I recognize, as the president of HA, that Scranton needs more services. But there's a way to do it without devastating a community and a neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Next on the list, Ron Ellman.
Ronnie Elman, Scranton. You people don't know what to expect tonight, do you? Well, first off, I'd like to thank Mr. Biden for giving out those medals of honor to some great people. I'd like to thank our mayor for spending some time and money on this building. This building, to many, is Scranton. It deserves every penny you can put into it. I don't think it's wasted money. And I'd like to thank you, Jessica. You enhanced my social goings last week by 4 people that thanked me for standing before council and saying what I thought. But when I sit down, I just have one question I wish you'd answer. Being an extreme pro-abortionist, how can you tried so hard to acquire a newborn.
Mr. Ellman,
And
let's try to keep it respectful.
this isn't
please.
out of order. I've asked somebody.
I'm just preemptively asking you to try to keep it.
I want to understand, and so do people, her understanding of the murder of innocence. That's what abortion is. It's an evil. What if
That's your
What
opinion.
if your parents followed this philosophy? You know, there's millions upon millions of dollars spent on abortions. Think of all the cancer patients that don't get proper care. Think of heart people. My son's in the hospital right now with cancer. And it's just a limited time of days, probably. I'm more familiar than probably any of you up there with it. I've lived with Roseanne's had cancer for 20 years, and she's surviving very well. But she didn't get the proper care many, many times because of co-pays. And this is a planned thing. She had stitches in her back a couple weeks ago. The doctor went and took part of them out and told her to come back. She had 2 co-pays when one should have sufficed. That's what goes on with sick people. Well, I'll change the subject because I do have something else. A gentleman, when I was walking Chumley last week, a gentleman told me the parking lot at Weston Field, Weston Park, could easily have 2 tennis courts. I don't play tennis. I never played it in my life, and I don't know exact size. But he said it would be so inexpensive, and it would help so many young people in the city and adults, and it would be, you could play tennis in this city, he told me, 6-7 months compared to a swimming pool, and you'd have the use of a court, I don't know, even with lights, let's just say 8-10 hours a day. I think it's time you people quit worrying about downtown and developers that are sucking us dry tax-wise and do something for the people of the city like a tennis court. That I think I've had 6 or 8 people say it was a good idea, it ought to be investigated. And I hope I don't don't ruin everybody's month off. I wish y'all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Dave Dobson.
Good evening, Council. Dave Dodson, resident of Scranton. I guess I'm both behind and ahead of the times. We now have COVID BA5, and Friday in New York City, it has been recommended that you start wearing masks inside buildings. So that's why I have my mask on. And I'm a real survivor. Don't hold your breath waiting for poor old me. Okay. Now, once again, we heard about all types of what an embarrassment Mr. Biden is and so forth. Well, I'm sorry to tell some people that speak up here that their presidential choice was an insult, and that's all there is to it. Today I viewed the hearings, and more or less we had Cipollone, the presidential attorney, and we had people from the group that actually physically invaded the Capitol. The week before last, we had Hutchinson, a woman, and she told of all kinds of goings on, including being instructed not to search for weapons on his circle, on Donald Trump's circle at his rally. So next week it is on in the evening on Thursday night, and please watch it because it's the grand finale, more or less. And once again, I'm strictly pro-choice. I don't support multiple trips to the abortion clinic, but there is a point where they are calling, these groups are calling birth control abortifacients. And by the way, isn't there an amendment that says, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor? What is that, the 6th? I don't know, because I haven't been to church in 50 years and don't miss it myself. I'm modern. I'm staring out into the universe and wondering what more exists. I'm not worried about something that happened 2,000 years ago. And as far as business is concerned, has anybody been to the mall at Montage within the last month? It's a really educational experience because they basically bankrupted our mall, compliments of the Chamber of Commerce, and built malls up there. There's hardly 50% of the buildings are unoccupied, possibly more. I was driving and I observed all the empty buildings, all the empty business space, but so I had to watch where I was going so I didn't run somebody over. But that might not have been much of a problem either because there weren't many people up there. It's really, we have to decide whether we're going to build business space or are we going to house people. And when they elect these people, so-called pro-lifers, they don't want to spend money on education. They don't want to spend money on housing. They don't want to spend money on SNAP or food assistance. They want to take it away. They want to take away Social Security. We have people running that want to re-legislate Social Security every 5 years. What's the youngsters going to say? somebody that's 30 years old. Oh, I'll never see it, so maybe I shouldn't care about it. But the bottom line is, if these people don't stop, it's time that they start paying taxes like all political animals like me. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson.
Property taxes are coming.
That exhausts the sign-in sheet for this evening. Would anyone else like to address council?
Members of council, Tom Coyne, Manuka. I dropped off a sheet while you were out for a few seconds, and that was just an informational sheet because we had talked about the reassessment of the county reassessment was going on, and we talked about them using comps from the last 30 months, and I had discussed prior that it's kind of hard to make comps from houses that are no longer selling because they're no longer in the range or beyond interest. This article I gave you was published by the Mortgage News Daily, and one of the startling things I found out in reading it is the share of sale agreements on existing homes in June. Just under 15% of all homes that went under contract were canceled. That means people who came in, put an offer on a home, contracted for it, turned around and walked away from that house, leaving their deposit as free money to cut from it because the interest rate had driven the costs beyond their scope of being able to pay for it, and or the market was so overinflated that they know that in a short period of time there's going to be a reversal and houses are going to lower just because they've been greatly exaggerated in price. So I just wanted to pull this out since it was an article specifically relating to that. Body cams for police officers. I understand we've put forth some money in the budget for re-equipping them because their old Axion body cams are basically the first generation body cams. I would like to see someone put in place that some of the Axion body cams actually be the shoulder mounted ones that have the camera on the shoulder. Because too often when you see a police video out there, you see them running forward to deal with a victim, the hands go up in front, the guns are up drawn, and directly in front of that camera is a blockage of arms and anything else. So having a camera that in incidences where you need the camera the most, it's physically obscured by the body because of the location of where it's worn on the chest is an issue. I'm not suggesting across the board, but some of them out there should be shoulder mounted. As of barring the door here in City Hall, I think it's absurd. It's a public building. This is not a prison. We pay for this building. This is not a guarded encampment. I haven't heard of any real incidences happening inside of the City Hall that warrant it. And if it's fear of being seen and observed, maybe then the people who are worried about people watching them shouldn't be in public life. Now, there are so many things wrong with the OECD issues on the table tonight. First is the handling of money, handing money to the managing company for the Scranton garages. Why are we giving them $450,000 in that document to repair a building which they are under the obligation to maintain? Because 30 years down the road, the city may get it back, but this is a profit venture for them. If they want to make profit from it, they need to maintain it, and that's where they gain their investment back from. It shouldn't be handed over for the city for a property that's being held by an independent contractor. Second, the drug overdose prevention program and the educational catch-up grants. I do not understand why in that body it has listed that they must be licensed to provide services in the county or the city of Scranton. This is a Scranton grant. It should not be going to Lackawanna County. It should not be marketed out to other financial districts. And if we don't have the ability to take care of that, it should be handled here, as in getting people here to take care of those issues. 5D, I have an issue with it because, once again, we are inflating a payroll outside of budget. 5E, I have an issue with it because we're paying a park security for the police department liaison from a DPW fund, which is incredibly convoluted. And just because of the nature of being convoluted, they say it's paid for. No, it's not paid for. It's paid for by 1 year.
Would anyone else like to address council this evening?
Good evening, Marie Schumacher. I would like to start off because I did not hear what your response was, that disappointingly the acoustics in this room are not...
Because of supply chain issues, we won't be able to get the equipment we need in time for August.
Oh. What are the items that you can't get?
I don't have the list specifically in front of me, but I know there's sound mixers that need to be ordered, as well as new current speakers.
I'm sure we have enough purchasers in this town that could find them. It can't be that many. So maybe you could make that an issue next week and tell us what's needed. Somebody used the word pitiful tonight, and I think what is pitiful is a lot of things downtown. I said after the walkability study was gone through, and it was stated, and the parking, we need to change the parking because it helps the businesses. Where are the businesses? I took a visitor and little guy off today, and we started walking downtown by address, and we only got 5 blocks, I believe, on Wyoming Avenue, and first floor businesses are almost non-existent. There are a lot of empty ones, and I know it's going to be worse when I hit the formerly known Spruce Street, just because I drive down there a lot and I see what's happening. Where are the businesses? Retail, they're not there. Look at the mall. Same thing. If it wasn't for Boscov's, I mean, it's just, you could have taken the professional building across the street, or what we used to call the medical building, and just pushed it down, and it was it was stretched out instead of up. And how much of our tax money went into doing that? And then we went and gave away the Electric City Garage, which was brand new, and gave it to Mr. Basiliga for $1, including with the older part at the Globe store. But then, of course, we did give them $5 million to make the repairs on the old part. They weren't required on the new part. So there's just so much that's wrong. Then, because today is Wilding anniversary, back when that happened, it was discussed that the rules for permits or codes would have to have rails if there was, I don't know how it was supposed to be, but so if it was a drop, if you jumped over a wall, the drop couldn't be more than, I think it was the height of the wall itself. And I don't know whatever happened to that. I went to the code and put in railing, and I couldn't get anything up. So I wonder, was that ever done? If it wasn't, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know how many there are around, but I know there are a goodly number. And the thing, this rescue money, when you look around at what's at this city, and whether it looks inviting or not, just drive from on Lackawanna Avenue, from the Adams Avenue up to where you go across the bridge on Jefferson Avenue. That wall, something has to be done. There must be, between the county and the city, there's got to be some of that rescue money that could fix that. That is the ugliest, most uninviting piece of, I don't know, structure, I guess, if it stays up. So please see something about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And on that point, there is a grant for the smaller wall, I guess you would call it, but the bigger wall also needs to be incorporated into that, and it's trying to figure out the pieces there. Would anyone else like to address council? Mr. Voldenberg?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
I guess I have a couple comments. Frank, I'm going to send over, I did get a call about the 100 block of Wyoming Avenue. I got a complaint about the grass, the trees, the weeds. If we could send code enforcement over there, I did take a ride on the way to this building today. And I mean, all the corners, the curbs, the trees that are on that street are all overgrown from Lackawanna Avenue to, I'd say, the next 2 blocks. But it's specifically the 100 block of Wyoming. Also, something I've noticed over the weekend is there's people camping along the expressway, right above Scranton High School and even across the street near the tracks. If we could send that over, I would imagine to the Scranton Police Department to let them know that there's people camping there along the highway.
Will, sir.
Thank you. I think some of the laws that we have, we do need to enforce. Mr. Spindler brought up a point about pit bulls, and I will have to say that I was a pit bull owner. I had to put my dog to sleep a year ago. She was an American Staffordshire Terrier. And things like breed-specific dog laws, they're frowned upon by the American Kennel Club, they're frowned upon by the SPCA. The issue here is bad dog owners. Similar to our ATV laws here in the city, you know, we do have laws, we need to enforce them. If an owner is doing, if we have a bad dog owner, we have to look into getting these dogs removed from these owners. Just my own personal tidbit there. The last thing I'm going to say is John Wilding. I don't know if everybody in this room knew John Wilding. I was a personal friend of John Wilding and his family, his wife, his children. And I hope with this law passing the state of Pennsylvania, I hope it brings some relief to the family. I'm still in shock over the event that occurred, so I do hope it brings some relief to the family. That is all.
Thank you. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, just a few comments. I wanted to agree with Councilman Schuster regarding aggressive dogs. I am interested in strengthening legislation on dog owners who are irresponsible with their dogs. I know my family, we've been victims before of irresponsible dog owners in the city, unfortunately. However, I am against dog-specific or breed-specific legislation because a Chihuahua could be aggressive. It's not just big dogs that are. I have big dogs that are not and are very friendly. Yeah, I'd be happy to take a look into strengthening legislation, but I would not be in favor of something breed specific. I also wanted to address Mr. Schwartz's comments regarding the zoning on Colfax, and this is something that I've spoken out about in the past. I have been adamantly trying to get meetings with representatives from Geisinger so that I could get more information for the residents in the Hill section as to what their plans are. I had sent them over my availability. They sent back some proposed meeting times that were all outside of what I had given as my availability when I would be working with patients, so that did not work out. And then the next date that they'd sent me was for mid-August, which I expressed not being happy with and that was unacceptable. I would like to see this zoning ordinance passed, but not with the current structure for, or the current zoning for Colfax Avenue. I don't feel that it benefits the residents and that it's fair. And I am open to more conversations with Geisinger, but doesn't appear that they're as open to those conversations with me. So I'm very disappointed in that, but I will continue pushing for it. If I don't receive a response, then I won't be voting on it. And that's where I stand on that. And lastly, there was a question asked of me in citizens' participation by Mr. Ellman. I still do not think that this is the appropriate forum to discuss national issues, including abortion. I also don't think it's appropriate for me to discuss my personal stances here. I'm here to talk about city issues, city business, as I would hope that the residents would be. And last I checked, I don't see any legislation on the agenda tonight that is relevant to abortion. So try again next time, I guess. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes. So last week I asked about what's going on with the pools in the city. Which ones are open, when they're open. Last week we had one open. But I'm happy to report that Western Field is open weekdays and weekends 12 to 6. It's closed on Mondays. Weston Park is open. It opened yesterday. And open Monday through Thursday and Saturdays. Connell Pool will open next week. So I'm happy to report these out. The splash pad is open Wednesday through Sunday. All hours are 12 through 6. So some pools are open now, so I'm glad to report that. I'm also just to bring you up to date, I've yet to receive the information I requested from the mayor about the power washer investigation. I've yet to receive the footage at the Scranton Center, so I'm still waiting for that. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple things in terms of what Mr. Schwartz brought up about the zoning. I could assure you that we're trying to work with Geisinger to have them present some sort of plan. Nothing's being jammed down anyone's throat. And we're not going to consider a plan unless they're more willing to work with and take in the considerations of the neighbors. And we're sort of getting to the point now where push has come to shove, where either they start engaging with the neighbors or they're not going to get anything in terms of new zoning, and they're going to have to come in front of the zoning board for a variance or whatever they want to do then. But nothing is going to be jammed through without making sure that they're also in conversations with the neighbors and listening to the neighbors about their concerns up there. That's why we've had it tabled since February now. We did hold meetings with neighborhood groups in terms of certain complaints. And if there was anything we missed, Mr. Schwartz, in those meetings, please let me know, and we'll, besides the guys, but if there's anything we did miss in terms of some of your concerns, please let us know, and we'll work to address those. We'll talk but that's on that issue. And then Mr. Voldenberg, I believe we all got, Mr. McAndrew brought this up multiple times about cars blocking the sidewalk on South Main Avenue. We received an email more recently. Could we check back with code enforcement? I'll give you that address after the meeting on that issue.
I will, thank you.
And also, we all got an email from a resident who DPW had removed items in error for pickup that weren't supposed to be garbage, and they're supposed to be reimbursed for that. They haven't fully received their reimbursement yet, so could we look into that issue too? I have that email here. And that's all I have for this evening.
Mr. President, I did fail to mention, I did have a meeting with Geisinger representative on this past Friday, probably for an hour and a half, and I listened to what they're hoping to do and what they're hoping to accomplish, and I gave him some advice about what they're trying to accomplish. Number one, I gave him advice that he needs to be more transparent with the neighbors in terms of what the actual plans are. He indicated to me that based on what they heard when they had the meeting with you, that they have gone back to talk to their architects and engineers to come up with a different plan, which I'm hoping that they're going to roll out pretty soon and bring it back to the neighborhood association and explain exactly what they're hoping to do based on input that they receive from the neighbors. But as our council president indicated, I told him that it's going to be very difficult for us to approve any zoning without them being more forthright and letting the neighbors and working with them and being a little creative about the plan that they're trying to put together. So I felt like he was receptive to some of the suggestions I gave him, and the future will tell, but I felt it was important to add that. I was able to set up a meeting. I know Jessica's still trying to set up that meeting, but I was able to meet with him on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Voldenberg?
5B for introduction, an ordinance ratifying the execution of an easement agreement between Mary Beth A. Harrington, 1711 Wyoming Avenue, Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania 18509, and the City of Scranton, granting the City of Scranton an easement and right-of-way over the property located at 1711 Wyoming Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, an ordinance amending file the council number 57, 2019, and file the council number 100, 2021, in order to modify the 2022 real property tax and refuse fee timelines for certain taxpayers who did not receive accurate and timely tax bills.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, this issue was relayed to the city from the tax office at the end of June. Apparently, when the data for the original tax bills was released by the assessor's office to the tax office, the property transactions that occurred between August 14th, 2021 and December 31st, 2021 were not included. This additional data was completed at the end of June by the assessor's office and forwarded to the SDO, and the SDO will send out updated property tax bills to the impacted properties. There were 265 tax bills that did not go out to city properties that incorporates both city tax, school district tax, county tax, and also the city refuse fee. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, an ordinance amending file the council number 93, 2021, an ordinance as amended entitled appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2022 to and including December 31st, 2022, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2022 by increasing the salary of the Director of the Department of Public Works in the amount of $8,200 in accordance with Article 4, Section 613 of the Administrative Code.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee. Hearing no motion, the ordinance fails.
5E for introduction, an ordinance amending file of the council number 93, 2021, an ordinance as amended entitled Appropriating Funds for the Expenses of the City Government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2022 to and including December 31st, 2022 by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2022, creating a supervisor level position in the Department of Parks and Recreation.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee. Hearing none, this ordinance also fails.
5F for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Alexander Latordo, 301 Newton Road Rear, Scranton, Pennsylvania 18504, as a member of the Human Relations Commission. Effective upon execution of the resolution, Mr. Latordo will fill the vacancy of Dr. Jessica Rothchild, whose term expired October 18, 2018. Mr. Latordo will complete the 5-year term that followed Dr. Rothchild and is set to expire October 18, 2023.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I believe I'll abstain from this just because it's to fill my past term.
Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Dr. Rothschild abstains. The ayes have it, and so moved.
5G for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Heather McCone, 341 White Birch Drive, Scranton, Pennsylvania 18504, as a member of the Human Relations Commission, effective upon execution of the resolution. Ms. McComb will fill the vacancy of Om Timsina, who resigned on March 26, 2022. Om Timsina's term is set to expire on September 16, 2022.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6th order, no business at this time. 7th order, no business at this time. 8th order, 8A, file the council number 9, 2022.
This piece of legislation is the updated zoning ordinance. It is continued to be tabled to allow for additional input, any changes, and any amendments made to the plan.
8B, file the council number 16, 2022.
This piece of legislation is the 2022 HUD action plan. It is tabled for 30 days to allow for the public hearing to be held, that was held this evening. And then also for any additional public comment could be submitted within the next 30 days. We'll take this piece of legislation up when we get back from our August recess. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.